PICREADI, a non-governmental organization that deals with creative diplomacy from Moscow. And before we begin and greet the speakers and the honored guests we have here, I would like to invite Mr. Žiga Urelc-Žlajpach and give him the floor to present shortly what the organization is all about. So Žiga, please.
Yes, thank you, Luca. Thank you all esteemed guests. Thank you to especially to our speakers, Mr. Dušan Snoj, Mr. Milan Brglez, and Mr. Dmitry Kulish. Thank you for joining us. I will try to stay really short. With some of the guests we have already met. Some of us we meet for the first time. But the Group of Friendship and Cooperation with Russian Federation is basically a group of students of various fields of study, mainly from international relations, European studies, and international business, and as well as international law. We operate under the Student Association for International Relations, GLOBALLIS, and our aim is to connect Slovenia and the Russian Federation, and to enhance the practices of cooperation between the two countries. This is our second year of effective functioning, and in those 2 years we've managed to create some progress, I dare say. We have connected with the organizations and institutions working in the field of the bilateral relations between Russia and Slovenia, and to just point out a few of our achievements, so to say, we have managed to take part in the official accreditation of the ambassador of the Russian Federation to the Republic of Slovenia, Mr. Timur Rafailovich Evazov. And we've also met at that occasion with our president, Mr. Borut Pahor. Furthermore, we took part in the memorial ceremony on the occasion of the anniversary of the Russian chapel under Vršič, and our members have also been very active in the field of various fields of our studies. So, for example, we took part in the Balkan Dialogue 2020 conference organized by our dear colleagues from Alexander Gorchakov Public Diplomacy Fund, as well as the event Prospects for Trade and Economic Cooperation of Russia and Slovenia, and the meeting Russia 2020 created from our Russian friends. But to point out just one more event, we were also recognized as an trustworthy partner to be invited to the Dialog v imя Budushevo, so Dialogue in the Name of Future event organized by Gorchakov Fund, where we were invited to participate in the plenary session with His Excellency Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Russian Federation, Mr. Sergei Viktorovich Lavrov. So this is just to give you a short brief on our work, and without any further ado, I will pass the word back to Luca, and just like to thank again our guests for joining us. And
thank you very much, Mr. Urelc-Žlajpach. Now I would kindly like to invite Ms. Natalia Burlinova to present, to get us familiar with PICREADI and what PICREADI does. Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. Just a couple of words about our organization, PICREADI. This is Public Initiative Creative Diplomacy, a Moscow-based non-governmental organization founded in 2010 by a group of new generation experts, as we call them, committed to developing and supporting civil initiatives in public diplomacy and foreign affairs. We are one of the leading Russian organizations working in the field of public diplomacy. We are focused on Russian public diplomacy. In 2017, we were mentioned among the 5 important Russian soft power agencies in a study commissioned by the British Council from the University of Edinburgh. So we combine elements of both an academic research center and a grassroots organization in Russia's public diplomacy system. And we are a kind of intellectual platform which hosts annual face-to-face debates among prominent Russian experts and emerging voices in Russian foreign policy community. Our landmark and leading and main project is Meeting Russia project, and I really welcome you in this project, and please check our website PICREADI.com just to find more information about this project that would be organized this fall, and I hope we will be welcoming you here in Moscow. So just a few words about our organization, and I wish you good luck in further discussions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Burlinova. It's always very nice and pleasing to see young, motivated people from different countries to connect with each other and work together. So I really hope this is only the start of a fruitful cooperation between GLOBALLIS and PICREADI. Now, let's present our dear speakers. Thanks for joining us. And to start with our first speaker, Mr. Dr. Dmitry Kulish, professor at the Skolkovo Institute of Science and Technology in Moscow, who has successfully managed businesses and teams with emphasis on pharmaceutical innovation, venture development, product development, and manufacturing. Dr. Kulish, welcome. Our second speaker is Dr. Milan Brglez, professor at the Faculty of Social Sciences in Ljubljana, and also a Slovenian representative in the European Parliament since 2019, and also member of many international professional associations. And our third speaker today is Mr. Dušan Snoj, former Slovenian ambassador to the Russian Federation and a board member of the association Slovenia-Russia. Now I would like to welcome all of our speakers to this roundtable, and thank you once again for being kind enough to accept our invitation and join us today. So to begin the discussion, we prepared a broad question for all of you, and we are really looking forward to your thoughts on this. And the question is, do you think Sputnik V is already, or perhaps will be, a successful political tool for Russian foreign policy? So I don't want to call you out specifically, but if anyone has an idea and wants to begin, the floor is yours.
Let me start. My name is Dmitry Kulish. I'm a professor of innovation, mostly in pharmaceutical and healthcare in Skoltek, Skolkovo Institute of Science and Technology in Skolkovo, Moscow. Thank you for inviting me to this great forum. I am invited because I am very vocal and kind of popular in Russia in topics related to COVID vaccines. And I'm a big proponent and fan of Sputnik V vaccine. And when people ask me why I am so agile and energetic in explaining the advantages of Sputnik V, my explanation is that I feel attached to this product by all my life. I've spent 20 years in pharmaceutical innovation. I worked in Gamaleya Institute. I worked with people who developed Sputnik. I do not have personal relevance to the development, but I know all these people. From the very beginning, I knew it's a good product. I knew it is going to save a lot of lives. And I'm prepared to give you a little bit of pharmacology of Sputnik product. So when you start discussion of Sputnik V from political angle, honestly, I'm not very happy with it. So my suggestion, well, it's not my suggestion. If I would be leading this great meeting, I would have started with healthcare and pharmacology and then move into politics. So I'm not afraid of politics. Politics is the mandatory component of everything we do because we live in society. We have to deal with each other, and the only way to deal is through politics. So I have no problems with politics. But when we discuss pharmaceutical products, when we discuss products that are designed to save people's lives, I prefer to start with pharmacology. Still, if you ask me if Sputnik is a successful political tool, well, of course it is. It cannot be today unsuccessful because, well, half of the world already accepted that it is a great product. And again, when I have time to show my slide on pharmacology, hopefully you will join my belief that it's a great product. And, you know, when each country, each nation, when they have great customer product, great innovation that solves other people's problems, immediately this nation gets respect and positive traction with other nations, other people. And that's what is politics. Politics is not evil manipulation. Politics is positive trade, positive exchange. And therefore, yes, Sputnik V today is already quite successful political tool. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kulish. That is a very fair point. And as part already and someone who aspires to be a part of the future academic society and community, we thought that the scientific and the pharmacological aspects were clear, and it is clear then that every vaccine is there to help and to save people's lives. So that is something that shouldn't be doubted at all. But you are right, and thank you for your input. Now I would like to invite perhaps Mr. Snoj, so we can hear his thoughts on this.
Well, thank you for the word. Hello, everybody. Good to see you. I would like just to introduce myself very briefly. I'm here as a member of the board of the Slovenia-Russia Society. I acknowledge we are not specialists for vaccines, and therefore, after that, I would like to put a question to Professor Kulish. I must say, Mr. Kulish, that I have some friends in Russia, and I asked them the question you mentioned, why it is Sputnik V. And I also thought that it is a Roman 5. And the answer was, it is V for victory. So that's my opinion about the Sputnik. But before that, let me begin with some compliments to you, the organizers. I think that the Student Society GLOBALLIS, I admit for the first time I'm hearing of it, and particularly of the group SPIC, Group for Friendship and Cooperation in the Russian Federation. I think that you represent a welcome fresh wind in the public diplomacy, since you are an instrument of public diplomacy of Slovenia and in the relationship between the two countries. After that, I would like to say that the timing of today's discussion is excellent. You hit the nail on the head, I could say. As everybody knows, the problem now is not the stocks of vaccine, not the vaccines. The problem is how to achieve as quickly as possible the collective immunity. And the success in achieving that is limited with the trends of non-vaccination decisions in Slovenia, but also in Russia, as you know. So what we need, I mean, is exactly more public discussions and brainstormings about that. From that point of view, this Zoom meeting is a very good idea. Then about my opinion about the Sputnik V, what I said, V is like a victory. It looks like everybody expected from Russia something like Lada or something like that, but it is, in fact, it is a kind of Mercedes. And I think that Sputnik may be a kind of a form of Russian soft power. Everything is not arranged with European medical agency, but I think there are some objective reasons for that. I mean, the time and so on. All the best, all the best, all the best.
Thank you very much, Mr. Snoj, for your compliments and nice words. And yeah, V definitely seems like it stands for victory, both perhaps for a victory over coronavirus and perhaps even a victory over something else as well, which directly can be connected with our first question. Now I would kindly invite Dr. Brglez to provide us with his thoughts on this, on whether Sputnik V is a successful political tool.
Yeah, thank you, firstly, for giving me the opportunity to speak on the other side. Congratulations for the event, as was mentioned before. It's very good to have something of real public diplomacy also. What is my impression and how I will phrase it? I hope that it's not just political tool, but it's in particular medical tool, especially now when it is needed or when vaccines are really needed. This is one of the issues. The other issue, which is important even before going into that, is, and where I'm somehow also proud on the European Union, because of the first global scientific cooperation, which actually led the knowledge to be able to then compete with different vaccines. And this cooperation was great. Actually, without the cooperation and financing, which is never done by companies because they cannot afford such a risk, there will be really not so many vaccines available at the moment. And this is very, very, very important step. I would say even the most important one, because we somehow squeezed normal 10 years of development in 1 year. And then, yes, and part of that was also Russian science. And I'm convinced, at that part, that this is science behind, and that's it. And when it is science and solid science, I wouldn't say excellent, because I have no enough knowledge to judge it that way, but then I know that the solid one, it is also behind Russian vaccines, also behind China vaccines. Yeah, it is general knowledge which we actually has been able to create through, I would say, cooperation. This part, and competition came after, and profits came after, and all those things which are probably problematic in some sense are after. But first one was the most important, and this is for me the main message which should be. And because of that, I hope it will be part of the global solution also, that we will be able to even to raise the patents as long as pandemic is there, and as long all people in less developed states are not vaccinated, because we have to do also that, not just for our states, but actually for the entire world, because otherwise we cannot stop it. We have to stop it everywhere, and this is, I hoped before that also EU will somehow let that, but at the moment, let's say the the priority somehow turned to American administration to go into TRIPS waiver, which is, you know, within the international organization or within this part, important for doing that. And I hope that others, including in particular European Union, will follow that. Then we will have something like a tool to help the humanity. And this is on the issue at the moment. And of course, judging just in terms of public diplomacy, judging just in terms of such things, yes, this is a successful political tool. This is also a possible answer. But I hope the emphasis is on the first one. The emphasis is on humanity, because it should be. Science is for humanity. And the profit or other things should come after, in particular in such emergencies like COVID-19.
Thank you, Dr. Brglez. I think we all couldn't agree with what you said more. The most important thing is to protect humanity and to somehow extinguish the coronavirus on a global level. And I think the scientific community had no doubt and has been, from the beginning of vaccinations, has been unified over that issue. However, as new vaccines emerged, we got more and more political implications, tension between countries, etc. Yeah, I'm glad now that we are moving towards an all-accepting community and society that can actually acknowledge all the vaccines as valuable protection against the coronavirus. So I would like to ask Professor Kulish if he can see any cooperation between Russian vaccine producers and Western vaccine producers in the future, having what we said in mind. And since that cooperation would probably benefit the society as a whole, or perhaps can you even foresee a cooperation between Russians and Chinese vaccine manufacturers in the future? And perhaps this is a good time for you to brief us up on the pharmacological aspects that you mentioned earlier as well.
Yes, thank you. So first of all, let me deal with this question of international partnerships, and then I'll go to pharmacology. Pharmacology is easier to me than international. On the development level, on the scientific level, we never stopped partnering and communicating, even today, even at the bitter peak of industrial vaccine competition. Scientists keep talking, scientists keep discussing how to improve vaccine products, how to improve outcomes. For example, one of the most popular discussion today is that in future, most probably we will have combined regimen of anti-COVID vaccination, when the first shot will come from either matrix or adenoviral vaccine, and the second will come from a whole virion vaccine. So today, whole virus vaccines are competing with matrices and adenovirals. In future, it will be one regimen that will be optimized for patients. This is an example. So scientists talk about it in a very open and friendly way, even today. 1 year ago, in spring 2020, the partnership was at the highest level during many years. There were several international conferences where scientists from all around the world got together to discuss the potential of different approaches to vaccines. And actually, one of the slides that I will show you is coming from this conference. And scientists, again, so 1 year ago, scientists were partnering 100%. Today they partner maybe at 50%, but they still do. Why today partnering is lower than 1 year ago? Because business came. And business, you know, it's a violent thing, but it's a part of society, it's a part of politics. As I said, we have to live in this society. When we interact with each other, we exchange things. And the activity of exchange is business. And well, in business, you have to compete. So it's not the barrier to any partnership in future. So I'm quite optimistic. So again, answering the question, do I see partnership? One of the theories in business that was published many years ago in the book with a very fancy name, Only Paranoid Survives, by these achievements, they always fluctuate from the point that he calls chaos to the point that he calls, when you are in chaos, you always partner, because otherwise you will not survive. When you are in organized success, you always compete, because you have to obtain the fruits of your success. So look, 1 year ago we were in chaos and we partnered. Today we are, well, let's call success, because you see vaccination campaign is quite successful. In 3 years from today, again, we will be in chaos and we'll partner again. So I'm kind of optimistic. Now let me show you my slides, and actually I was very grateful to Mr. Dušan that today the problem is not manufacturing of the vaccine. The problem is convincing people to vaccinate, and the key to decision to vaccinate is trust. Therefore, when I tell my stories of Sputnik vaccine, I always would like to explain why I trust in it. And well, I trust a lot. I vaccinated my entire family. I myself, I already vaccinated for the second time to boost my antibody level. So when people ask me why I trust the vaccine, I show my 3 slides. And after these 3 slides, maybe you will have more trust, not only in Sputnik, but also in all vaccines. So again, I don't have a goal to convince you to chase Sputnik vaccination. All vaccines are great, all. Moderna is brilliant discovery. Pfizer is brilliant management. Sputnik is brilliant invention. Sinovac of China is brilliant manufacturing product. Bharat Biotech from India is amazing local innovation with global potential. So I can honestly and sincerely give a praise to each and every vaccine, but since I know Sputnik the best, I would like to give you my piece of trust in Sputnik, and then we'll discuss what we can do with it. So it will be only 3 slides. I hope I'll do them in 3 minutes, and then I will abandon microphone. So let me see. Do you see my slides? Somebody say yes.
Yes, we can see them.
Good. So the first very reasonable questions. How come Russians could do the complicated pharmaceutical product after we have heard a lot that Russian pharmaceutical industry was almost non-existent 10 years ago, 20 years ago? So first of all, let me admit that 10 years ago and 20 years ago, Russian pharmaceutical industry, in fact, was quite destroyed, quite non-existent. So people who say they are correct. Still, I have to share with you that I witnessed that some islands of pharmaceutical innovation and development still survived in Russia, and I was very lucky to witness these islands. For example, the adenoviral platform, let me give you some fun facts. I hope you enjoy them. So first, you may not know it, but adenoviral platform was invented by Americans in University of Pennsylvania. And since I was proud student in University of Pennsylvania, I know the story very, very well. So, you know, it's a rare situation in which Americans invented something, but they decided not to develop it. They gave it to British AstraZeneca and to Russian Sputnik. Fun fact. Still, 25 years ago, immediately after Americans invented the first adenoviral vectors, the lab of Boris Naroditsky in Gamaleya Institute took it for development, and they kept developing it for 20 years. So the country was in very poor economic shape. We had civil disorders, we have all kind of tensions, and still one lab in Gamaleya, Boris Naroditsky, was developing adenoviral viruses, and they also developed several very interesting immunotherapies. So it's not the miracle that Gamaleya is doing Sputnik today, because they did it, they always did it. The second fun fact is that, surprisingly even to me, Russian vaccine industry never died. Russia always produced a lot of vaccine. Chumakov Institute always had WHO pre-qualification, which is approval. And surprisingly to me, there was one point in the history of planet Earth, approximately 10 years ago, when the key childhood vaccine that is called DTP plus MMR, you may Google what it is, but it is a foundational children vaccine that each and every child on Earth receives today, even in poor nation, because of support from Bill Gates Foundation and from United Nations. So at some point, this combination was produced only by 3 companies, by the famous French Sanofi Pasteur, by the famous Indian Serum Institute, and by the local Russian manufacturer in Russia called Microgen. Even to me, it is surprising, but again, it proves that Russian vaccine expertise never died. And of course, as you know, Russian government invested a lot of money into support of Russian pharma industry during the last 10 years, and I'm a proud participant of this program. So now when people, and so now let's again discuss the issue of trust. When people say, how can vaccine can be developed in 2 months? Of course, it was not developed in 2 months. So as I said, the Boris Naroditsky lab started developing adenoviral platforms in 1995, which is 25 years ago. Then MERS and Ebola vaccines were developed both in Gamaleya and in Vector. And interestingly, Putin critics, they criticized it. They said, we don't need Ebola vaccine in Russia, why we finance it? Now, today we know why we finance it, because in fact, Sputnik is 95% identical to the Ebola vaccine that was developed in Gamaleya during the last 5 years. In March, we had quite illustrious meeting with President Putin, who called key vaccine developers from Russia for the meeting that was publicized in media, newspapers, and TV. And you know, 15 different labs brought proposals for all kinds of COVID vaccines. I was amazed. So we had 15 active groups in Russia, but the presentation from Alexander Ginsburg, the president of Gamaleya, was so illustrious that immediately we understood that Sputnik V from Gamaleya is going to be the key product. Another fun fact, why it is Sputnik V. So initially they wanted to call it Sputnik, but then Ginsburg and Naroditsky from Gamaleya, they said that surprisingly to all, 5 years ago, French virologists already used the word Sputnik for a very particular virology vector. So they kind of appropriated Sputnik name from Russia to France. So now to distinguish it, we needed this letter. So we can say that V is victory. And yes, of course, Russians, you know, Russia is on the border between Europe and Asia, and we sometimes boast ourselves, and we sometimes enjoy our egos. So maybe it is victory, but we needed some letter to distinguish it from French Sputnik. Okay, and final table, and then I will be done. So what is important to understand? Last year, at the conferences that happened in March and April of 2020, when the best virologists of the world asked each other, so what we do to produce the most powerful vaccine for COVID in the shortest period of time. Nobody doubted that it must be either mRNA platform or adenoviral platform. And nobody doubted that mRNA is more risky than adenoviral. Still, most people, including myself, we believed that adenovirus would not work. So we believed, you see, I have this 3 columns. Column number 1 is protection from hospitalization. Column number 2 is post-vaccination fatigue. Column number 3 is storage conditions. So I believed, so we all knew that post-vaccination fatigue from mRNA platform will be stronger than from adenovirus. We knew it, but we also believed that mRNA will give 90% protection, while Sputnik and AstraZeneca will give 60%. That's why there was huge rationale in parallel development, and that's why we all praised Moderna Corporation, German-Turkish BioNTech company, and Pfizer Corporation for investment into development of mRNA vaccines. We believe that they are saving humanity, and we believe that only their products will be truly efficient. Surprisingly, today we know that both matrix vaccines and adenoviral vaccines, they produce 100% protection from hospitalization, and adenoviral vaccines are even weaker on post-vaccination fatigue than we expected. Therefore, again, I'm not here to sell you Sputnik V, but I'm here to explain that comparing to what we knew last year, the situation with Sputnik is a little bit better, and with mRNA vaccines is a little bit worse. So that's why I am enthusiastic about Sputnik. And now, of course, I would appreciate any questions or any guidance from Lucas.
Thank you very much, Professor Kulish, for providing us with such interesting and valuable insights. I believe we all learned something new, and that this will help us look at vaccination and Sputnik V from the right perspective. When it comes to questions, we will open the floor to the audience at the end of this panel, and then perhaps someone will have questions about that. But now I have a question for Mr. Snoj, and the question is, can we expect that Slovenia will decide to order some Sputnik V vaccines, just like Hungary and Slovakia did, despite the fact they are EU countries and that the European Medicines Agency has already rejected Sputnik and is now examining it for admission once again?
Well, perhaps I'm not the best man to be asked that, but as regards me, you know, I think I'm positive, I'm optimistic, and I think that there would be a kind of agreement in the European Union and Slovenian government, of course, to do that. Perhaps Professor Brglez could better answer that question. But, well, I have one question for Dmitry, and, well, I would be sorry if I could not ask him, because it is very interesting, you know. I like the element of ethics. Ethics is not very frequent in politics, nor in diplomacy, but here I see a kind of a solidarity. I was just thinking when you were talking, and I think I understand the difference between the China and the Russia. The China is also exporting a very great part of its production. Extremely great part, about half of it. And Russia also exports little less, but also very much of its production. But I know that Russia also needs a lot of vaccine. I think that the reason for China is they would like to show to the world something that the China, the Beijing, they would prefer to be remembered as the solution, not as the source of the pandemic, as a great part of world think. As regards Russia, on the other hand, maybe when the COVID began spreading around in the world, Russia decided to export a great part of its production as an opportunity to show its science, what is going on in its technology, what is going on at Skolkovo, where you work near the Moscow. I think it is a great venture. It is similar to the first satellite, or the first man on the moon. You know the stories about the Kennedy strategy and management and so on. So, Dmitry, I would like to ask you, why was that decision to export such a great part of your production?
Thank you for the question. Of course, this is an important question because Brussels politicians, especially Ursula Le Guin, are speculating on this topic. As you know, Ursula said, we cannot trust the vaccine that is not trusted by the people of Russia. And of course, it's a speculation. So the answer to this question has two sides. First side is that it is not factually correct that the decision was made to export majority of local production. The decision was made to localize production of Sputnik all around the world, and 4 key manufacturing hubs. Number 1 is Argentina, number 2 is India, number 3 is Brazil, number 4 is Korea. They promised to produce 1 billion dosages per year. Can you imagine? Therefore, I would disagree that we decided to export local production. No, we decided to spread the vaccine all around the world. By the way, this is what Pfizer did not do from the very beginning. And today, when President Biden is called to act on free trade enforcements for Pfizer, they try to do what is done already for Sputnik. Sputnik will be produced in Argentina, Brazil, India, Korea, and distributed all around the world. Local Russian production will be at the level of like 150 million dosages per year to cover local demand. Okay, the second side is once again the problems that you very carefully and accurately explained in the very beginning of this panel. The problem today is not manufacturing. The problem is trust of people into vaccine. And in Russia, we have very dramatic circumstances of manipulative, speculative, and bitter European and American propaganda against Sputnik in August and September of the last year. To me, as to the scientist who lived in America for 10 years, who have a lot of American friends, it was personal tragedy. I was reading the magazines that I loved during all my life. First of all, it was Science magazine, it was National Geographic, and I was seeing evil propaganda explaining that Sputnik vaccine is bad. And since Russian people, they truly respect American and European publications, we read them in original, we read them in translation. So because of that, a lot of Russian people, they became anti-vaccine. The numbers are hard to define, but some people say that only 50% of Russians are ready to vaccinate. Even today, other people say 30. We do have progress, still it's a low number. Therefore, honestly, when we decide to export, It's not the topic of politics. It's a topic of supply, demand, business economics. As soon as we have higher demand in Mother Russia, we immediately will satisfy it with local production. Okay, thank you for a good question. I hope I answered it.
Thanks.
Thank you very much for the question and the answer. It is really interesting how many factors can actually influence the perception of people towards a vaccine. And I think it is evident that now in the globalized world and with the facilitated digitalization that happened from the beginning of the pandemic, that the number of conspiracy theories is only going up. Yeah, it's always good to hear from experts like you about what actually we should believe and what actually is the truth. However, if we move on to the question for Dr. Brglez, perhaps besides following up on the question I asked Mr. Snoj, we'd be interested in hearing from you whether the acceptance, the ever more probable acceptance of Sputnik V by the EU, would it mean, what would it actually mean and bring for the diplomatic relations between Russia and the EU? And whether the factors that are ongoing now, for example, the reciprocal sanctions, can they actually make the EU lose its bargaining position with Russia in terms of getting Sputnik V vaccines?
Thank you for the question, where I would need some diplomatic skill to answer entirely, not to go too deep into details. In particularly, first regarding the Slovenia, I think that the wisest way is actually European way in this way. As a member of European Parliament, I'm standing behind EMA. I have to trust EMA. This is the only way which I can show to others what this is the right way. The other, which are responsible for trust, in particular, is normal, let's say, national authorities. The way how they speak, how far they are following scientists and experts in different ways, epidemiologists and others. And, more than, they need to scare people, less trust they will build in long way. And we have this problem because of that. And of course, then this somehow influence also the campaign of vaccination in particular states. Also, I think that something like that you can find out also in Slovenia, or that at the end of the day, this will be the explanation why probably there is not such an enthusiasm that it will be possible, as long there will be not general vaccination approach, because I believe that youngers will vaccine more likely because they would like to travel, because of a lot of things which are more, just not to be guilty, if nothing else, for the fate of others. But this is the one. This is the Slovenian answer, partially critical, not totally. I can be more, but this is not the forum for doing that. But regarding European approach, yeah, as I said before, EMA is important because this is our common institution. We are trusting in it. We are trying through EMA actually to, at the end of the day, somehow put the responsibility to the producers, not to the states, because where there was faster examination period or faster authorization period on other states, actually either in United States, I know that for United States, UK, in both cases, the state is responsible if something wrong, not producers. So a kind of building more protection, being more convinced that everything is okay. I know that Slovenia has not such an authority that can do that way. And what was also very important, that this time, these things has been very open, more than in normal medicine. In normal medicine, things are much more, not so transparent, despite you can still argue it was enough transparency in this respect. But when you come to the business and to other things, then things are not so easy. What was problematic in European case that we actually approached the entire question more like like business, like other market as any other market, and do it that way. And some other states approached the issue more like military operation in terms of we need to have vaccination, we need to do that, and approach is totally different. So not having enough probably experience in with let's say quite powerful players in terms of in business. Some of those things are not going quite well, and even if you go to the court, it will take long over pandemic. I hope that those things will be settled. So this is the one thing which should be explained behind, but common approach, I like it. Through common approach, also member states of the European Union actually get it. I don't see, or I rather not to think about the price Slovenia would need to pay to get the vaccines otherwise, or to build proper friends abroad in times when it's questioned if we are building really friends or making foes out of. But this is okay. Again, not the issue. Regarding diplomacy, yeah, this is one of the issues when the cooperation is possible, of course. I think that also some other issues are such where also, let's say, kind of better diplomacy is possible. Probably not so much with the European institutions, but with member states of the European Union, definitely. This is one. Would this somehow undermine European front on some other issues which are unsettled and which are reasons why sanctions are there? I don't know, because diplomacy is sometimes a mix of what is possible and what you need to do because of your membership. And that at least for part of Europe, the question of relations with Russia are too emotional to do it rationally. We are probably first newcomers. I'm not saying the only one, but one of the first or the most Western part of newcomers where we still are able to think about this issue rationally, also with some sympathetic to our Slavic roots and without having any problems even to speak about it. While on some other parts, the feeling is totally different. And when you mentioned in the beginning where you participated with Russian chapel, with all those things, those are things which are making probably for us more conceivable than in general I would see also within the European institutions, in particular European Parliament. In particular European Parliament, why? Because in European Parliament this anti-Russian sentiment is probably even more widespread. That will be normal, that will be rational, connected to particularly political orientations that political parties are there, because this is the way how we are organized. And it very much, but instead of that, it very much reflects from where someone is coming, from which country members of the European Parliament are coming. So because of that, I don't see the way how this will change otherwise the policy with Russia, but definitely it will bring in something positive. And for diplomacy, for any kind of relations, always very good that you can concentrate on some issues which are positive, because then you can build relations. Even if other things are not so well, but having relations is much better than not having relations, to somehow cut the relations. So because of that, I don't like sometimes, when things are escalating, but I'm not saying just on the Russian side, I would say on both sides are responsible for doing some of those things. Sometimes behavior is nasty or something like that. Sometimes response from the European side should be better. or it is conceivably better. But okay, this is another topic. But I do not see, necessary connection between one and the other. But what is good is that in addition to environment and to addition to some other strategic things around the world, we will probably with that also build one more issue. When the cooperation is possibly good, it has some, and with that you get, it is good if things are not just negative in both sides. And this can be signs that we can do something. And that this cannot, and okay, I believe at least not in this part of Europe, from us to the west, there is not so much hard feelings at the interpersonal level, or that things will go into the population. This is more the question of diplomacy done by political elites or particular governments which are in power. So this is a kind of answer I can give. I cannot go more deeply or if those reasons are justified or whatever. It's better not. But judging from the feeling I get in the European Parliament, this is the answer I can give.
Thank you very much, Dr. Brglez. I think you gave us more than enough perspective to look at this, and I can only say that I guess we're all hoping that EMA will eventually approve Sputnik V for EU use as well. Mr. Kulish, you raised your hand, please.
Yes. So you gave very good discussion together with Milan on the possibility of EMA approval for Sputnik, but I, as an insider of the industry, I can give you another very interesting fact. 2 days ago, European Commission published official recommendation to European Council about the entry of European Union after the pandemics. And they clearly said that they will allow people who are vaccinated with either vaccine approved by EMA or vaccine approved by WHO. And that was quite sensational because for the first time in history, European Commission agreed to make EMA and WHO approvals equivalent. It never happened in the past. WHO was always secondary to EMA. So by accepting this equivalence, European Commission in Brussels created a very unusual legal situation in which Sputnik does not need EMA approval anymore. As you know, we are very optimistic about Bavarian approval because we have very fancy situation. So one of the best Russian pharmaceutical companies called R-Pharm, and it is not Russian farm, it is the last name of the owner, Repik. So company R-Pharm, it is very reputable, and it is chosen by AstraZeneca as the contract manufacturer for AstraZeneca vaccine. So this is a sign of quality of R-Pharm management and quality. In the same time, R-Pharm has the plant in Bavaria that they purchased, interestingly, from Pfizer. So this plant will produce Sputnik in Bavaria very soon. So it is expected that Sputnik will be approved in Bavaria quite soon, like next month. So in the past, when EMA declined equivalence, okay, so first, most probably Bavaria will approve Sputnik quite soon, coming from R-Pharm plant. And second, we are pretty sure that WHO will approve Sputnik approximately by July. And yesterday it was confirmed by WHO officers in the video briefing. So if by July Sputnik has approval from Bavaria and from WHO, it does not need EMA anymore. That's very, very unusual. So Germans will be able to get Sputnik in Bavaria, and Russians will be able to enter Europe because it is WHO. So now, as you may guess, I kind of hint that Slovenia can also locally approve Sputnik and have no problems. Thank you.
Thank you for the interesting fact. I personally didn't know this, and I think it's really we have to look at the interesting development that's to come. And now I would like to ask Mr. Snoj and Dr. Brglez if they have any comments about what Mr. Kulish said.
Well, I absolutely agree with Dmitry. I would just like to add a vignette, a very little additional picture to his thoughts. Europe is Europe. I know that Bavaria is going to go to Sputnik V. I have heard that also Austria is thinking about that. We have our friend, a little bit distant, Serbia, which has only Sputnik. I like the solidarity, I must say, of Russia as regards Venezuela. It is far away, but Venezuela without Russia would not have any vaccine. Perhaps the Chinese, but which is not so effective. As regards Europe, let me say, there is a kind of I think, not very realistic debate in European Union and in the world as well. Does receiving Sputnik V mean losing independence of the country? I have read that yesterday. The question is accepting the vaccine political decision or public health decision? Is buying Russian or Chinese vaccine a business deal or foreign policy question? And I found that we have presidents in the European Union like Czech President Miloš Zeman. You know what he explained to those dilemmas. By the way, he has serious political problems at home, but he has problems for at least some years. He explained that position to media, for American media, to the mediaatlantic.com, exactly. He said, in a war, which this situation is, Czech Republic is in war. It is like in India there, you know. In a war, though we fight against an invisible enemy, you need to do whatever you can do to make it stop. I, said President Zeman, I frankly don't think that receiving vaccines means losing independence. It's a business deal. It's a good answer to unrealistic and bad question.
Okay, then I would also add something. I totally agree with this, that this is public health issue. And if someone will ask just experts, then a lot of things will be probably different. The only problem in Slovenia is that we have not so trustful, we do not so much trust in our institutions that they are capable of really scientifically judging independently on those issues, and this decision will then be totally political. And I prefer not to have totally political decisions, because in the long term, I prefer to have the experts I can trust. And for us, EMA is very important. So probably it's better to wait these 2 months, because also our campaign for vaccination is not so successful at the moment that we will need so many more at the moment. But in the long term, yes, I believe things will go actually in the way that it was explained, and also probably EMA will follow the suit. If it's just the question who will give it first, because it is not fine that, you know, you have the highest authority not giving the approval, and let's say regional authority, not even state authority, but regional authority giving it. But probably this one, and someone can even explain a bit politically. Germans have elections very soon, which are very, very important in the future of Europe, and also of all relations of Europe also with others. So, and Bavaria is one of the important players in that one for the size who is governing.
If I may add just one sentence. Well, my information is, but I think that it's still real, that Slovenian Foreign Minister Logar is going to visit Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov in Moscow in some days or weeks. And I cannot see that, I cannot imagine that meeting without the talk of on that question of Sputnik V. By the way, V is the church's sign. It means we shall win.
Thank you very much. I think this was a very interesting debate, and thank you for providing us all with such amazing insights. Now we've got some time for the questions from the audience. We received some questions already in the chat, and now I would like to invite everyone who has questions or comments about the topic we've gathered to discuss today, either to post them in chat or to raise their virtual hand, and we'll give the floor to them. And until there is someone brave enough to do that, I will read the first question we received. It's an open question. It hasn't been directed to anyone specifically, so you can answer it freely. It's a question by Sergey. How can Russia shape its soft power to advance its interest in the European market? And what image of Russian soft power do the Europeans expect, or are they actually ready to perceive for the development of relations, taking into account the current realities?
Probably have to start answering because, well, I stand for Russia in this great panel. So clearly I cannot talk for entire Russia, and clearly we have all kinds of political and philosophical minded people. Russia wants to be pragmatic today. In fact, Russia does not want to play politics. Despite we want to be respected as a great nation. Yes, we want. We want to be respected as a partner in global trade. Yes, we want. But in the end of the line, we want pragmatic approach. If we have good product that we can offer to you, we want you to consider it as a product, not as a political tool, not as a soft power engine, as a product. If this product solves your customer need, let's do business. If it doesn't, we will come back home and improve it. Let's not involve politics. And clearly, today, very unfortunate situation with Czech Republic that we are very upset about. And for us, for Russians, this situation, of course, goes all the way back to 1968 invasion of Prague by Russian tanks. And we feel ashamed of it. And we know that what's going on today is the karma coming back from this 1968. Still, we have nuclear technology for Czech Republic nuclear power plant. And we are bitter that they rejected for political reasons. We know that we have real political problem with Czech Republic. We know that it will take several years to heal. but we want to discuss nuclear technology as pragmatic, innovative technology that solves customer problems. I believe that's how many Russians think today. Thank you for the question.
Thank you for the answer, Dr. Kulish. Is there anything else our two other speakers would like to add, Dr. Brglez and Mr. Snoj?
Well, I could only add that Russia is on the right way. I like the element of solidarity, you know. Moscow and Beijing, they are distributing Sputnik V and the Sino, what is either free or very cheap, mostly to low or middle income countries. And they are just in a way filling the vaccine gap created by the West, by its so-called vaccine nationalism, you know, the inward focus on domestic needs. First, my country, after that, other countries, and so on. That is good as regards public relations, you know. And besides, I think that nothing could be changed overnight. I understood also Professor Brglez. He is thinking in that way. You know, there is a book of Henry Kissinger with the name Diplomacy. And the last sentence is like that. It is a proverb, I think, a Spanish proverb. Traveler, do not ask where the path is, where the way is, the road is. The made is the road, the way, the path is made by walking. You must make your own path. That's it.
It's also hard to add something. As I said before, I believe this is something good. It can rise also power. Probably I would rather comment or add one piece of information more even on nuclear energy. Basically, at the moment, well, there is just Russian nuclear technology around, available at the moment. The West somehow stopped produced, or they believe that they need new generation of smaller nuclear plants, but these things will not be available in the next 10 years. So someone have to take into account that at the moment this is the only one. The question is where is still possible in terms of either politics or public opinion still build such plants. This is not so easy in Europe, and some are counting on other technologies in terms of doing the goals of Green Deal. So this is, you know, in Europe, this is always a bigger question. But yeah, Czech was part of this of those who has been still at least conceiving the issues. But within the parliament, we are divided more or less, half. And when things are becoming such that more of those will be against nuclear power, then actually no European finance or not financing from European institutions or European bank can be in help for the state to build a new one. So these are some limitations, what is possible, what is not possible. And it goes on also with the general discussion, which is sometimes, like in Slovenia, missing for very important energetic decisions, which have to be built on the, you know, where people have to believe or trust that the decisions are the right one and that they are part of the social consensus. And yeah, this is not so easy sometimes. We are still on this phase. We are not on the end phase. We know what are the goals, but most important political decisions has still not been made. And they need backing of people, legitimacy of people. And this is the most important thing.
Thank you all for answering the question so nicely. Now we have a raised hand by our colleague, Ms. Alisa Rienko. Alisa, the floor is yours.
Hi, can you hear me? Okay.
We can hear you.
So, okay, thank you for it. So I just have 3 questions. So my first question is, my mother tongue is Russian, and I read about that Sputnik V has some other consequences, not the one that we read in the media. And my question is it true? I mean, because we have Dmitry Kulish with us, is it true that this consequence is such, I mean, something that we don't read in the media? It is true that those are existent, but Russia doesn't write about those. And the second question is, so why do you think Vladimir Putin didn't vaccinate before? Because we received information that he was vaccinated 14th of April or something like that. So if you believe that vaccine is so great, and I heard it is, so why didn't he decided to vaccinate before? And the other question is the cooperation between European Union and Russia. In Russia, I mean, so do you think the way you see it, this cooperation, and do you see this as shipment of a vaccine to the European Union countries, or just production European Union countries? Because I read that if it is possible, Russia doesn't have so many vaccines for European Union. And I mean, whoever wants to answer can answer, but I would really want to hear the question, the answer of Dmitry Kulish. Thank you.
Thank you. 3 questions. So the first 2 questions are quite sensitive and political, so I'm kind of afraid of answering them, but I'll do my best. I will try to give you strict facts, and then please process them in any way that you enjoy. So the most famous anti-vaccination rumor in Russia is that Sputnik has problems with fertility. So it is very fancy when I run discussions with anti-vaccine people. I show them that the first publication about fertility problem of COVID vaccine was made by ex-Pfizer vice president. It was published in Great Britain, and one of Russian newspapers translated it with replacing Pfizer by Sputnik. So we can prove this by having documents in hand. So that's how anti-vaccination rumors are produced. So let me repeat it again. There was insane person who was fired from Pfizer for poor performance. He published insane article in Britain that Pfizer vaccine caused fertility problem, and insane Russian journalists translated it into Russian with technical replacing Pfizer with Sputnik. So now when I have to comment on this, I do not know exactly how to comment correctly beyond saying that I cannot comment on behavior of insane people. So can I ask you, which are the other hidden secret side effects of Sputnik that your mother to you beyond fertility problems?
Sir, can you repeat, because you were freezing? I mean, your Zoom connection wasn't good.
Apologies. My question is, let's be precise. So I assume that the first side effect of Sputnik vaccinations that your mother mentioned to you is fertility. Is it correct?
No. I said that my mother tongue is Russian and my native language, my first language. And I read that there are some consequences that in the media are, like media doesn't present us all consequences of the vaccine.
Exactly which consequences? Exactly which? Again, my guess is fertility problem. Проблемы с беременностью и зачатием. Мы об этом говорим?
Нет.
Okay, so exactly what is the problem that we discuss?
I mean, this is the problem because we don't read about those, but they are,
So okay, so you don't know exactly what to discuss, but you're sure that they exist. Well, yeah. Well, maybe I have to ask my colleagues how to properly answer this question. Can somebody help me?
I will help with one story. The conspiracy theories as such has been a very, very important thing in terms of environmental consensus. 20 years ago, there was a consensus more or less the same as now it is, what we have to do. Just things has not been so urgent. But at that time, oil industry, or in our case also you can say other companies, start spreading the rumors, start spreading, they actually invited PR or even, they actually used PR to undermine scientific facts, what is going on. And with that, we get divided science. Yeah? But nowadays, this divided science was somehow more or less on the side of populists, like it was previous American administration in this regard, definitely. Also Bolsonaro in Brazil and all other things. I wouldn't say that this explains, but you have to take this into account. It is intentional creation of or undermining the authority of science, which is actually the only authority we can have in such an urgencies. And this is very, very wrong. It is the same situation like in environment. But now it took us 20 years to overcome that. And you know that if we started with measures 20 years ago, we can do it more slowly, not so much at once. And this is, sometimes this is the wrong side. And of course, nowadays it is connected also with widespread social media and the belief that we are attaching to that. Sometimes it is good firstly to learn something and to judge by yourself. At least you have to get so much knowledge that you can overcome that. And this is the only way. I do not see other ways how to overcome, but it is very hard when you have to fight in the public campaign. Yeah, of course, this is very hard.
Thank you, Milan. Thank you. Yes.
I will just add a sentence. I have worked for years and years as a journalist and editor-in-chief and so on, and I do not believe what is written in media or what is said on TV in that you could say post-truth reality and fake news world. What you were saying is the problem of Slovenia, perhaps also the problem of Austria, the problem of France, of Great Britain, and so on. Bernie Sanders, he's perhaps the nicest presidential candidate in the history, Bernie Sanders in the US. He is fighting all his political life with the so-called big pharma, there is not only big oil. He said that big pharma is now #1. It is bigger and strongest than big oil. It has the strongest lobby, not only in Washington, but everywhere in the world, perhaps also in Brussels. You must only know just one data, one information. One of the, in fact, small companies, Pfizer BioNTech, it reports a few days ago, around 1st of May, that it already signed contracts for this year worth $26 billion. And that estimate is probably conservative.
Thank you. Yes, so Alisa, despite we are very skeptical about fake news and conspiracy theories, still I respect your right to disbelieve Russian science because it has doubtful reputation in the last 20 years. You may disbelieve Russian politicians. So, great news. Since you speak Russian, you may join Russian speaking group on Telegram for people vaccinated with Sputnik. Go to Yandex, find the address, join. There are 7,000 people vaccinated with Sputnik. They're all around Russia. They will talk to you and they will share their experience. I am vaccinated 3 times. My wife is vaccinated. My mother, who is 68-year-old, is vaccinated. My father is vaccinated. Her mother with oncology disease is vaccinated. And so far, we have no hidden side effects or consequences. So that's what I can share. Your second question, very popular one. Why President Putin did not vaccinate earlier than in April? Clearly, I'm not in position to comment on his personal decisions, but I know one reason why he did not vaccinate, and I am grateful to him that he did not vaccinate. Again, when I started my speech, I said that I'm so active in this Sputnik story because I feel that my entire life is a part of a Russian pharmaceutical development process, Russian pharmaceutical development community. So now, as professor in Skolkovo, I feel like my personal mission is to support each and every innovator in Russia with like any possible mean and tool. So, as you know, we have 3 vaccines in Russia: Sputnik, Covivac, and Epivac. So, President Putin vaccinated 2 days after the 3rd vaccine, Covivac, was opened in Russia for mass vaccination. So I believe that by waiting, so again, my explanation is that so he knew, so Sputnik was opened for mass vaccination in December, Epivac was open in January, and Covivac was open in March. So my explanation is that President was waiting for the 3rd pharmaceutical innovator to support them. It was the sign of equivalent support to all 3 Russian vaccines. And I love it, I respect it. That's my explanation. Another explanation, of course, is that President cannot take even the minor risk. That's why presidents of all countries are traveling in dedicated planes. They have a lot of bodyguards because we don't want the country to be beheaded by even minor risk to their president. So that is another explanation. Okay, and the 3rd question I forgot. What was the 3rd question?
It was whether you think European Union will cooperate by production or shipment of vaccine.
Good question, good question. So clearly, again, it is all about business. It is not about politics, especially with Europe. When we send vaccine to Argentina, Indonesia, it is kind of politics for us. But when we deal with European Union, we know that European politicians all of them. Brussels people, Czech Republic people, Slovenia politicians, they are mature and wise enough to not allow us play political games with them. It is strict business. As Mr. Snoj mentioned, it is healthcare issue. How to secure the optimal product for your population. Therefore, as I said, in Bavaria, Sputnik will be produced like next weeks. So I assume that Bavarian people will be served by Bavarian-produced Sputnik. As you know, San Marino is extremely active in Sputnik vaccination, and they don't have Bavarian plant. Therefore, they were served by Russian Sputnik. So to me, it is totally pragmatic manner. And by the way, I forgot to address another important question that is coming up all the time. So remember, I said that I can imagine a situation in which WHO accepts Sputnik and EMA never accepted. And Milan said that would be a sad situation for Slovenia because Slovenia relies on scientific expertise in EU, positive pragmatic explanation why EMA may be unable to accept Sputnik for a very simple reason. Because as you know, it is compatible with Russian trains. We have so many million engineering differences in our trains that it's difficult to combine them. The same goes with biotechnology. WHO learned how to deal with Russian biotechnology 20 years ago when they secured yellow fever vaccine from Chumakov Institute and they gave approval to Chumakov Institute. So for WHO, it's easy to deal with Russian pharmaceutical standards and legislation because they have experience. EMA has never dealt with Russian biotech, and they already have a lot of problems. The most famous problem is this problem with replication particle that was announced by Brazilian regulator last week. So we believe that we can have 1,000 replicating particles per 10 million of vaccine units, and EMA believes that you can have only one particle. So now, in this battle, it's very hard to make any side to lose. If we convince EMA that you can have 1,000 particles, EMA will feel kind of intimidated, and AstraZeneca will sue EMA because EMA forced AstraZeneca to go down to one particle. If EMA convinces Russian legislators to decrease from 1,000 to one particle, Russian Gamaleya Institute will sue Russian legislators because we strongly believe that there is no scientific rationale to keep such a low particle content in vaccine. So this is just one example. And we have dozens of examples like this in this sophisticated biotechnology. Alyssa, did I answer your question?
Yeah, thank you. And I just wanted to say that thank you for the answer. And I believe you know that you, like, I don't want you to misunderstand me, but I just wanted to, like, understand, you know.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the questions, Alyssa, and thank you to all the panelists for the answers. I think we really got a lot of information today, and we received answers to a few other questions that were posed in the chat. But however, since we're running out of time, I would just like to ask each of the panelists for a quick closing remark of their own, somehow a conclusion, a takeaway message for all the participants and the listeners today. Dr. Brglez, would you like to start perhaps?
Okay, well, I will repeat the main thing for me within that. It was a cooperative one, so what scientific cooperation can achieve. And yes, like the explanation previously, that science is cooperating in times of crisis, and then there is a kind of competition. Yeah, also EU is built that way. You know, we are always trying to, at the same time, cooperate and compete on some ways. So things are not black and white, and someone have to go to the details. But for me, or for my political purposes, this example how investment in science and scientific cooperation, you know, get fruits or public goods is probably the most important thing, which we have to translate into next or other, not just crises, but other examples where we actually really need science. And we have to build that one, and we have to build it. That it's very important that also our scientists are part of that cooperation, that they are involved. But this is the way how you can also build, let's say, also other things which are important in nowadays world. That will be the last word for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Snoj.
Yes, I would just like to repeat myself. I think that the Russian vaccine and Russia, in that case, was a kind of a surprise to the world, absolutely to the West, and that's why there are reactions of big pharma and so on. Russia should never forget that it came, and the drug, the vaccine, the jab, it came the first in the world. That's like Sputnik was, or like that Gagarin was the first around the planet. And that is something important, and we must not forget that. That's what I wanted to say.
Thank you very much, Mr. Snoj. And last but not the least, Dr. Kulish.
Yes, so thank you for this great meeting. I really enjoy it. First, I enjoy any discussion between Russia and Europe, because we need to build trust, we need to build bridges, and discussions like this, they create these bridges between Russia and Europe that historically are what we need in this continent. Second, let me repeat for the third time that Mr. Snoj was absolutely correct, that we have to work all together to build trust and vaccination. The example of Israel, the example of Scotland, who vaccinated their population at amazing speed and amazing density, and they totally lost any disease today. These examples prove that vaccination is the way out of coronavirus, and the hesitance of people to vaccinate that are related to conspiracy theories, to disbelief in science and government, these are the hurdles for humanity to be happier. So hopefully, after this discussion, each of us will call your friend or relative and say, hey, maybe we should vaccinate. We should vaccinate with Pfizer, we should vaccinate with AstraZeneca, we should vaccinate with CanSino, with Sputnik, because that's the way out of coronavirus mess. And again, the spirit of this discussion served this purpose. Thank you for that.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kulish. I think those are the right words for us to take home after concluding this event. We're all in this fight together, and we all have a role in acquiring global immunity and raising global awareness for how important vaccination is. So on behalf of the organizers I would like to thank you, all the speakers, for being part of this amazing roundtable today. And I hope, and we all hope, we are looking forward to perhaps future cooperation with you if you are up for it. And we will try to continue building bridges between Russia and Europe with our cooperation with PICREADI. So thank you all very much. It has been a delightful afternoon. Stay safe and continue promoting the idea of vaccination to other relatives and friends.
Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.